Beth with ThimbleHooks. Thanks for stopping by. And remember last week we made the coolest Prada inspired bag ever. Very, very fun. I made it in yellow. This one, remember, was Lion Brand Rewind tape yarn. And I made its matching hat. Finally got my pattern done. See, I haven't even woven in all my ends yet. I am so close to this one being absolutely complete. See, it still has the great logo right here. Here I made it in Raffia. Here made it with the Raffia. Not as much of a fan personally, but just so you can see the options. It's a pretty color. Holds its shape nicely. But I prefer this product better. And then this is my favorite one. This is Yarn Bee's Sugar Wheel Cotton Solids. I just love how this one turned out. So I'm going to show you today in a different cotton yarn. Another product that I love, Lion Brand's 24/7 cotton. It is a really nice sturdy cotton, and this one is just denim. It's a great blue. I love this blue, and I thought it would show up nicely today. So you'll need one skein of your Lion Brand 24/7 or whatever one you're choosing, at least 150 yards. You're going to want that. And we want a 3.5, a 4, and a 4.5. So we start from the top and work all the way down. And this is all going to be basically one piece, which is way easier. So you start with a magic circle. And if you don't know how to make a magic circle or you want to learn how to do it the super easy way, I have a tutorial. It's only a couple minutes long. It shows you the really easy way. But what I do is get my 3.5, wrap, under, grab, twist, grab, done. See how easy peasy that was. And now in our magic circle or our magic ring or our magic loop, whatever you call it, we are going to put 12 single crochets. And I'm going to mark that first one. So our very first round is 12 single crochets. Here's my first single crochet. There's number 1. And we want 12 in our ring. And there's number 12. So I have 12 in my ring, and now we get to do the magic part of the magic ring. Grab that tail end and pull. And now we have a circle. There is round 1. Get that nice and tight. There's round 1. Now I want to slip stitch to our first stitch that we did here, that we marked. And chain 1 so we can start our new round. And in that same stitch, right there, it's still marked even, I want to put in a double crochet. Now we can move our stitch marker. And there's our first one. So in every stitch all the way around we're doing an increase, so each one gets 2 double crochets. So there's number 2 in that stitch. This one gets 2 all the way around. So you'll increase up to 24. And here's my last stitch with the increase of 2 in each stitch. So there we go. That's round 2. And that was an increase. So then we want to slip stitch into our very first stitch that is marked. Chain 1. And start again with another round of increases. So we want to double crochet into the first stitch that's marked. Now we can move our stitch marker. And now to increase the second row, a double crochet and then 2 in the next. That would be considered the increase. And then you get 1 double crochet in the next stitch and 2 in the next, all the way around to increase up to 36. And there's my last increase. And there we go. You're making the top of our hat right here, top of our hat. we will get this all the way increased out to 84, which would be through round 7. And each one of these is going to increase by 12. So I will meet you when we're all done. So that the first round was 2 in each stitch. The second one was a double crochet and then the increase. The next round would be 2 before the increase. Then the next round would be 3 before the increase. So you just keep going like that until you get to 5 double crochets in between your increase, and then you're at 84. Then we can start the rest. And yay, here's my last increase. There we go, all the way up to 84. Slip stitch into our first stitch. And there's the top of our hat, and it will be right around 6 1/4 inches, maybe 6 1/2, but should be right around 6 1/4-ish. With your 3 1/2 hook, you should be able to get that right on. Now the next round, we're going to start with the mesh. And now I have to change my hook. I'm going up to the 4 1/2. So I was using a 3 1/2. 3 1/2 is going to go away. And now we're going to use the 4 1/2 so we can make this mesh part right in here nice and big. So we already did our chain 1. In that same stitch, we want to do a double crochet. And mark our stitch. We'll mark that stitch. You don't need to mark them as much anymore. We're at the easy. It's all downhill from here. This is so easy. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet in the next. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet in the next. Chain 1, skip a stitch, double crochet in the next, all the way around, and you will end up having 42 little squares. And I'll meet you back at my stitch marker. And we're almost done. One more here. Chain 1, skip 1, and there's my last double crochet, but make sure you do your chain 1 afterwards so that we can link these together. You do a slip stitch into your marked stitch, and now we have all of our mesh for our first row. Our first round right here is all done. Right here is where we are. See, we're rocking, we're going so fast. And now you can finish this off any way you wish, because we're going to weave that end in a little while anyway. So we'll just go snip and have this one hang out over here for a while. Now we want to call this the back because there is just a slight seam. We'll call that the back of your hat. We want to put the triangle logo, the little triangle on the front of the hat. Alright, so we were using our 4 1/2. We'll just set this aside for a minute because we don't need it for the triangle. We're going to move on to our 4. If you don't have a 4 and you only have the 3 1/2 and a 4 1/2, keep going with the 4 1/2. Don't go down any smaller than a 4. So we want to work on this side instead of back here where our seam is. So I'm going to turn, keep the seam close to me, and I want to find approximately evenly. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want this to be towards the back. So I'm just going to pick a spot. I want it to be centered as much as I possibly can, but it's not going to be huge if it's not perfect. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. It's going to be about like that. So that's a good place to start. So I'm going to start here with my 4mm hook with the right side showing and reattach our yarn. And in our first, I'm in a double crochet post right here. In the top of our double crochet, I'm going to fasten on and do a single crochet. And then in the next chain space, we want a single crochet. And in the next double crochet is a single crochet, all the way out until you have 21 in every stitch and every chain space. 19, 20 in a chain space, and my last single crochet goes into the top of a double crochet. So there is the top. of our triangle, or the bottom, I guess. This is the top of the hat, but it is the long side right here of our triangle. Very easy peasy. Now the second row, we want to work back down this again with 21. So chain 1, turn our work, and do 21 single crochets again. 1, all the way down to the end. And there's my last 2, there's number 20, and here's number 21. So there's our first line of our triangle. You can see it better on the purple. I really like how it worked on the purple. Alright, so now we want to do the next row. There was 2 rows of our 21 there. We're going to chain 1, turn our work, and now we want to do 4 slip stitches. Don't do these too tight because you need to work back into this outside stitch again. So we're going to yarn over and pull through everything. There's 1 slip stitch, 2, there's number 3, and here's my 4th slip stitch. So we just moved ourselves over a little bit. That's all we did. And now we want to work into that same place we just did our 4th slip stitch. So chain 1 and do single crochets. Now we want to do 15 across. There's 1, 2, all the way until you get to 15. 13, 14, and 15. So there's our 15 there. So we've moved over 3 stitches, technically 4, but we did work into this 4th stitch. So there are 3 unworked and 3 unworked on this side. So we've reduced our stitches by 6. We want to do another round or another row of 15. So chain 1, turn our work, and single crochet 15 across again. 13, 14, and there's my last one is 15, and these are our slip stitches from before. We are not going to work those, remember? So if you wanted to, if it helps you at all, remember which side is the slip stitches and which side is the turn. You can mark this side as the slip stitches. We're going to chain 1, turn our work, and reduce 1 more time. So we're going to do the same thing we did before. Into that very first stitch, we want to do a slip stitch, not too tight. Slip stitch number 2, number 3, and number 4. Now we want to start working our single crochets. So chain 1, and in that same space we're going to start our single crochets, and this row has 9. 1, 2, 7, 8, and 9. And again, there were 3 unworked on each side. We slip stitched over 3, and we're not going to work these 3. So we need 1 more row of 9. Chain 1, turn our work, and do your 9 single crochets across. 8 and 9. Alright, so we did 2 rows of 21, 2 rows of 15, 2 rows of 9, chain 1 and turn our work, and we're going to reduce down 1 more time. This is our reducing side, and in order to do that we're going to slip stitch 4 times. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 slip stitches. In that 4th one we're going to start our single crochets. So chain 1, single crochet 1, 2, and 3, leaving 3 unworked on this side and 3 unworked on this side. Chain 1, turn your work, and single crochet your 3 again. 1, 2, and 3. And now you can finish this off. And there is our triangle, right here, right here. There's a triangle. Now we want to fill in everything around it. To do all of this part right in here. Fill in all the way around it, and we are going to fasten on our yarn again. Alright, so this is the wrong side and this is the right side. We want to start working on the right side of our work. Put the 4mm away and go back to our 4.5 book. There's my 4.5. This is my prim, this is my baby. So where we want to start is right here on our triangle. Right in here, our very first stitch, we want to fasten on our yarn, chain 1, and double crochet into the top of the next double crochet from that first round of mesh. Chain 1 and repeat that same sequence all the way around. Double crochet into the top, chain 1, and over to the next. So chain 1, skip the stitch, skip the space, and right over here, and do that all the way around. Right, and I'm working my way back to the triangle on the other side. Here's my last double crochet here. There's my chain 1, and now I want to connect this post. It needs to be connected to our triangle to make its little mesh square. So all we're going to do is go into our very first stitch on our little triangle corner and slip stitch. And now it's done. It has made a little square. So we've turned this row into another row of mesh. Yay! Now we need to go up so we can work the other direction and make the next one, but we need to get this to be a square. So the way that I have finagled this into working is I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to do a sideways double crochet, which is exactly the same. We're just working into this stitch instead of down here anywhere. We want to work into this very first stitch on the next row up of our triangle. So yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, and there's our square. And chain 1, turn your work, double crochet into the next stitch way over here, chain 1, double crochet, and chain 1, and you can see we have made a mesh square right here, and now we're starting our new row. So again, we're going to do that all the way around. Alright, and I'm almost back to my triangle again, working the other direction. So let's finish these last couple. Double crochet, chain 1, and here's my last one right here. We're working on top of our triangle right here. So in our first stitch, which is where we fastened on in the first place, we are going to double crochet. And then now I want to make the next square. This one, there's actually 2 stitches in between here because we did our 3 unworked stitches. I want to chain 2 to finish our square, so it's a square and not squished on one end. And then we just go into our the first stitch there and slip stitch. Done. Now we're finished with that row. We need to move up to this row. So the way we did that was a chain 2, which is counting as a post. Right now it's counting as a double crochet. And then we want to double crochet into this next stitch over here on this corner. Sideways double crochet is what it kind of ends up being. Chain 1, turn our work, and then work into this next stitch way over here. And you can see now our next row has started, and we have 2 squares of our mesh already. We're going to work that all the way around again, the same way we were doing it before. Double crochets, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, all the way around. And here we are, we're getting very close to our triangle again. There's part of our triangle. We want to work into the very first stitch. With the double crochet. And now we have to fill this in. Again, chain 2, because there's 2 stitches we need to cover here. Slip stitch. So our square is complete. Chain 2, which counts as a double crochet, and then we're going to double crochet sideways into the top little stack of 3. There you go. Chain 1, turn your work, and complete that row all the way around. All the way around. Alright, here's my last one. We're back to our triangle. So that first stitch gets its double crochet, and now we just need to fill in this block right here. Chain 2 and slip stitch so we can close that mesh row. And now you can fasten off. So I'm going to snip right there and just pull this through. So there, our triangle is complete. So now we can turn these over, as we're already down to here. We just have to make the brim now, and the brim is super simple. We want our seams to be in the back, right here, like we were talking before. There's a bit of a seam. I want the seams to be in the back. So we want to start, there's your triangle. Turn so the triangle is facing away from you with the right side out. Alright, so we're just going to fasten on our yarn the opposite side of our triangle in any chain 1 space. Any of these chain spaces will be fine as long as it's close to somewhere near what you consider the back of the hat or the opposite side of your triangle. So fasten on. We're changing into our 4 again. Grab your 4 hook and fasten on your yarn. And 2 single crochets in that same chain space. And now let's mark that very first one with our bright orange, and every stitch, every chain space gets 2 single crochets all the way around, and that chain space will get 2 all the way around, and I'll meet you back at my stitch marker. And here is my last mesh square. Gets 2 single crochets, and now we're back to our little part at the very front of 3, the little point of our triangle. In the center we want to put 2 single crochets in that center stitch, and then continue with our 2 single crochets in each mesh square chain space. And here's my last couple squares. Last 2 stitches, 2 single crochets in this mesh square, and then do a slip stitch in your first slash marked stitch. Now if you're counting your stitches, you notice that you only counted to 78. That was correct, because we were at 84, but in these we lost 1 stitch here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We lost 1 on each of these rows because we slip stitched in and left 3 stitches unworked. So if you counted your stitches and you got to 78, don't worry, it was correct. That's exactly the way it's supposed to be. We lost a couple of stitches, but everything is going to work just fine. Chain 1, we will be doing a double crochet front loop only for this whole round. So we go, yarn over, pull through 2, and pull through 2 in the front loop only. I'm going to remark that stitch, and in the next one, front loop only, so that's the loop that's closest to you. For the first 5, there's number 4 and number 5. We're increasing from 78 to 91. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then our increase. So there'll be 2 double crochets in this front loop. 2 front loop double crochets in that stitch. So there's 5 double crochets in between each increase. There's 1, front loop only all the way around, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then our increase in the next front loop only is 2 double crochets in the same stitch. And do that all the way back around, back to your stitch marker. And 4 and 5. And my last increase in that front loop has 2 double crochets. So we just increased up to 91, which is the very first part of our brim. So we just have to slip stitch into our marked stitch, chain 1, and the next round is extremely simple. It's just a single crochet all the way around, 1 in each normal stitch, normal. No front loops only or anything, just normal single crochets all the way around, 91 of them. Mark that first stitch and single crochet away all the way around. There's 89 and 90 and 91. Just regular old single crochets all the way around. Slip stitch into our first stitch, then chain 1. And we're going to do this exactly the same way we did the first row of increases in the front loop only, but this one has 6 double crochets in between each increase. So front loop only, double crochet number 1, and put my stitch marker back, and front loops only, 6 double crochets in between each increase. Here's number 2, here's number 3, 4, 5, and 6, and now we do our 2 double crochets in that same front loop for an increase. And you do that all the way around, 6 doubles and then an increase. There's my last couple stitches, and there's my last increase. Right there, 2 stitches in that last front loop. Done with that round, slip stitch into our marked stitch, chain 1, and then another round of just normal regular old single crochets all the way around. So we're right here, almost done, right here already. There's my last couple stitches on this round. Easy peasy. It's just a round of single crochets. Slip stitch into that marked stitch and chain 1. We're going to do one more round of increases. So this one was 5 in between increase. This one was 6 in between increase. So this row is 7 in between increases and front loop only. So there's our front loop only, then double crochet, mark that first stitch, and we want 7 before our increase. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and now an increase, so that means 2 double crochets in the same front loop stitch, and that will take us up to 117. Do that all the way around. 7 double crochets between increases. There's my last couple stitches. We are almost done. One more stitch in this front loop, and we're done with this row right here, this row right here. One left. Yay! So slip stitch into that marked stitch, chain 1, and do a round of single crochets. And only a couple of stitches left. I am so excited. Last stitch of that round of single crochets, slip stitch into your marked stitch, and fasten off your yarn. Nice. And look at how cute, how adorable is this? And this is cotton instead of using the raffia right here, which is not as user friendly. And this is tape yarn. This is Lion Brand Rewind. I like this. This is really fun to work with. It's nice. And this one is 100% cotton. This is 100% cotton. They're just two different kinds. Two different manufacturers. This one was from Hobby Lobby, and this one is a Lion Brand. Now, if you're great at embroidery, you can always write something in here if you wanted to. So thanks for stopping by. Thank you for supporting my small business. Please subscribe to ThimbleHooks and come back soon. Thanks. Bye.